Hey Joe, what's your take on auto auctions and conferences?
It's a well-run circus for both, I think.
Do you think you could have time to maybe meet me at the gate?
I'm Rich Levene, and this is Meet Me at the Gate, where we're not just talking theory, we're tackling real-world problems head-on, driving solutions that supercharge productivity and team dynamics. Every episode is a journey towards improvement, empowering you, the manager, to lead with innovation and confidence. Join us to transform everyday roadblocks into highways for success.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Ty, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Haven't seen you forever. I'm in Joplin, Missouri right now
Okay.
at the Recon shop. You guys are at the car conference?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're talking about auctions and cars and stuff. I'm going to show you what happens before it gets to the auction.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
These guys in here are techs and mechanics, and we're going to talk to them, see what they know about wholesale. Where were you at? North Carolina?
I was in Virginia Beach, so about 4 hours from there for the last 5 years. I was really big into the automotive industry with just professional, basically starting up with the EV stuff out there. Yeah.
Oh, hope you don't have a Tesla.
Oh, Ty. So here we are. We're a couple minutes into the podcast, and Ty's already talking politics on us.
It's either politics or transportation. You pick.
What industry are you in, Ty?
Transportation. I'm the transport guy. Come on. Everybody knows that.
Hey, so hang on. So this is a first because I'm the auction guy, you're the transportation guy, and now we have the convention guy,
And I'm the mechanic.
the mechanic guy. So what are we working on?
So we've got the 4.3 liter V6 and a Chevy. These come out with DOD, so that just basically shuts off certain cylinders to help with gas mileage. On this one, particularly, one of the lifters that closed down got stuck and it washed out the cam. So as GM, to repair this, the only way to do it is to pull both heads. I already repaired or replaced the camshaft, but you pull off the timing cover, all the chain stuff, remove the camshaft, reinstall it, then reassemble. It's a lot of work for what a part that looks just like this that costs $14 that fails and causes $4,000 worth of work.
Well, at $14, that's not arbitratable because it's less than $800. I'm guessing with the labor on that, though, we're going to be well over $800 if you have to remove all those parts to put that in.
Yeah, it's 25 and a half hours of labor.
Oh my goodness.
Almost
Yeah.
half a work week.
That is.
I started on it yesterday and I'm almost done. I'll be finished by the end of the day today. So I'll be in about 16, 17 hours.
So if the dealer bought this car at the auction, right?
That's exactly what happened.
What's
He
it?
bought it at the auction. Now he's got to fix it. Now he's got to retail out of it. How do you do that?
He either had the option to send it back to auction again and take, a decent hit, a loss, or finish the repair and take a smaller loss. He's losing either way because he passed arbitration times, and it was a less of a loss for him to just have us finish and retail it at a little bit higher.
This is a wholesale car, right?
How's it going?
It's Steven. This is Rich, and that's Joe.
Nice to meet you.
Joe has the best job ever.
Okay.
Joe, I either want to work for you or work for you. He's
What's
got
that?
the best job. I want to work for you.
Oh, please. I'd love to
Yeah.
have you as special correspondent.
Whenever you have a hot topic and you need to see it in real life, call me and we'll do a live like this. We're underneath the car right now, by the way. Is that safe?
Yes.
Yeah, we're safe. Okay,
We are
calling
safe.
OSHA and stuff.
So
Heard that.
we've got a Chevy Traverse in today. Your exhaust, whenever it's driving down the road, it vibrates a whole bunch, right? So they put this, it's called a flex joint in, and it allows movement in the exhaust back and forth. So the one had failed on this one, so I just cut the old one out, got the new one welded in, and this one's all good to go now.
Steven's a welder too. He just welded that up there. I saw him. Yeah. Now on a wholesale unit, tell us some of the important things about wholesale units that you've learned in the last month or so.
Oh man, them boys are picky.
wholesale guys are picky. They're also tight ones.
Yeah, very tight wads.
Tight ones. You know,
Yeah,
there's a
the
reason for
cheapest.
that, right?
Right. They're trying to save money.
Right. If they got to send it wholesale, they buy it wholesale, then they got to sell it wholesale. So the margins are pretty thin. That's what we're learning, right?
Very.
So like, also it really gets tricky. They're like, hey, yesterday they come in and they're like, I need all these cars done now. You're like, all right. So you start ordering parts from the O'Reilly's one block away. And then you find out you can't order those parts because they cost too much. You order them on Amazon. See that thumbs down? Look at that. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're learning a lot, aren't we?
Yeah, and with ordering parts online, you got more time with the parts to come in versus we could get a car in today, go to the store, buy the parts, have it in and out today. But if they want to save the money, then we've got the car 3, 4. If shipping delays, then we have it longer than a week. And then they try to say our turnaround times are longer than they should be.
Whoa, you don't know anything about that, do you, Rich?
No, I don't know anything about that. But I'm going to go to the Auto Intel Summit and I'm going to learn all about it.
Auto Intel Summit. I want to go. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Auto Intel Summit. That's next week. Oh, no, you got the rodeo, don't you? Yeah,
I
we
got the rodeo. We got rodeo sale that
Texas.
week. I would love to be there.
Well, we can still pump it for Joe and Bill and Nick.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about Auto Intel Summit.
Yeah, in a nutshell, it's about innovation in auto retail, auto remarketing, and auto finance, and kind of the investment behind that. So it's a lot of the emerging technologies and how dealers sell cars, how the auction space, and a big part of it fintech, how deals are orchestrated now, and then we've got a couple sessions where we bring in people from the venture capital and investment space. They're the foundation of these companies that need the investment dollars to launch.
To make it go.
3-day conference. We start on April 8th and runs through April 10th. It's in our hometown of Cary, North Carolina, which is part of the Raleigh area, and it's been growing every year, and it's a lot of fun. It's similar to our used car week, but it's sort of a different group of people, more people from the technology piece of automotive.
I met Ty at Auto Intel Summit
Yeah.
3 years ago, 4 years ago. I can't remember. It's been a little while since it started. Incredible conference. It's a little different. And so the listeners out there that may not know, you're with Cherokee Media.
Yes.
You're probably most known for Used Car Week, which is an incredible show. You guys do an awesome job.
Hey.
I did go to that one. I've been to the Auto Intel Summit once, and it's smaller. It's more quaint.
Yeah.
What I got out of it was the networking and,
Yes.
and the connections, and the conversations got a little deeper and a little more in depth and robust, if you will.
Yeah.
Which is what I think. So, Ty and I are doing this, our podcast, Meet Me at the Gate. We're all about helping managers in auto remarketing space and getting them to go. Most of our audience is auction.
Okay.
Now, we've got some other ones. We've got some finance people listen. I've had some others bump into me. What would you say, like, hey, you should be there because...
Well, totally self-serving of me here, but we've got, I'm moderating 2 panels. One is focused on consigners. One is focused on auctions. And it's about, how does the remarketing of cars, whether that's the consigners or the auctions, running the sales, how does that change in this era of technology? And not just digital sales, but electric vehicles, connectivity, autonomous. Some of that is maybe a little further down the road. I mean, I think most vehicles are connected to some degree now, but autonomous, we're still kind of working on that. And things like shared mobility, when you have vehicles that are in subscription fleets or that are part of Uber fleets, that kind of thing. How are those vehicles remarketed? How does the landscape change because of different ways of owning and using cars, but also the way the cars are, the technology within the car? Why does, electric vehicles, how does selling that in an auction different than, traditional ICE vehicles?
Well, from an auction standpoint, and I look at electric vehicles, full disclosure, I haven't bought into them yet. It's just, the technology is great. It needs some more work. I believe hybrids is where it's at because we're in the middle, and let's work our way. I think it was too much too fast. But from an auction standpoint, and the way I manage the auction I'm running is I hire mechanics. I don't hire electricians.
Yeah.
So you can't arbitrate it.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some things we're going to have to figure out at some point in time as an auto auction. It's like, do we go out and hire an electrician, if you will, or an auto electrician, or what is it? And then what does that start looking like? And then start bringing in experts. And right there, you just hit it earlier. Your gentleman earlier said he worked on EVs. Let's go pick that guy's brain. Let's find out, how many motors are on it. And a lot of people don't know. And I think I know Tesla has 2 motors on it. It's got one for the front axle and one for the rear axle. So you start getting into all kinds of things that you can't. So go down to Auto Intel Summit, sit in and listen. Joe is going to be moderate. You're going to moderate the panels?
Moderating those 2 panels, and then I'm moderating one where it's buy, sell, and a venture capital panel. So we've got on that one, I believe there's 5 people on the panel. 3 of them are from the traditional dealership buy sell firms. So it's good. We have Kerrigan Advisors, we have the Presidio Group, the Dave Canton Group, and then we have Steve Greenfield from Automotive Ventures and Brian Donnelly from Auto Tech Ventures. So it's going to be a mix of, talking about the, investment in technology, in these startups that are helping dealers, auctions, finance companies do their job better, the investment dollars behind that, but also how dealers are investing, not only in terms of buying other dealerships. Dealer M&A has been a big discussion point in retail, but also, specifically with the Presidio Group and with Automotive Ventures, they both have essentially, it's in different ways. What they do, part of their business model is helping dealers themselves, the big dealer groups, invest in some of the technologies that may one day end up helping them. Steve Greenfield's he's had a dealership fund funded entirely by dealerships to invest in those companies. Presidio has done, for example, there's a company they have worked with called Stella AI, where they've gotten some of the investors that in that company have been these big dealer groups, and they work with Presidio to do this. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And a new wrinkle this year is we've got what we're calling the Automotive Intelligence Awards. And
I'm not winning that one.
oh no, we'd love to have you as part of it.
I'm not very intelligent.
Actually, I think based on what you were saying, we may need to add you to the auction panel. The Automotive Intelligence Award we're splitting it into 2 awards. So first is going to be industry analysts. To my knowledge, this is the first conference that is really individually spotlighting auto analysts. And this year we're recognizing 6 auto analysts. We have Jonathan Smoke, Jonathan Banks, Larry Dixon, Laura Wehunt, Linda Zabritsky, and Kevin Roberts.
You got all the big names.
Yeah, as our inaugural class. And we're going to continue doing this every year and recognize different analysts each year. And then the second piece of that is the emerging companies. And these are companies that are improving an aspect of our retail marketing or finance through technology. And we'll be moderating. We'll have panels with those folks.
So I'm going to challenge you a little bit because I learn at the 3rd grade level.
Okay.
I'm not the brightest guy in the room. I'm surrounded by bright people that ask great questions. What I see you guys doing at Cherokee Media is being innovative and being leaders, if you will, leaders in a different category, right? Not like leading people, but leading the industry. And when you do your shows, you do them just a little different. How do you guys come up with these ideas? Explain it to us auction people who aren't aren't as talented as the investment community. Like, where'd you guys come up with this idea and how'd you push it? And then, you made it take off.
So I think it actually came from going to other conferences and hearing some of the sessions there. I think it was, my boss, Bill Zadeitz, our company president, he'd been going to, like all of us, going to NADA each year. And a lot of the discussions and things he heard was, he kept hearing, digital retail, fintech, all these topics kind of come through different conversations. It's like, what if we put all those ideas into one place? So I think a lot of it is just going to conferences and, talking with people. I had a magazine issue that I'm working on. One of the ideas came from just sitting there chit-chat with somebody at breakfast the other day. So it's really just a matter of coming up with the ideas is just a matter of listening and just these it doesn't always happen like in a session. It's sometimes just passing somebody in the hallway that, you talk to them for 5 minutes and come up with an idea. We really rely on crowdsourcing, where we send out a call for speakers. A lot of ideas come through that, and those help us, fill a lot of the workshops and a lot of the some of the panel discussions. And then we turn to people like I mentioned Steve Greenfield earlier, who all day, every day, he specializes in this segment. We turn to him and get some ideas for topics we should be addressing these things. So it's basically the ideas come broadly through just listening.
You got 2 ears and one mouth.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what they said on the last panel.
Well, yeah, and I even said that yesterday. I was fortunate enough to speak in front of a group the other day, and I told them, I said, my grandmother always told me, because my father owned, we'll call it a dime store. It was a Ben Franklin back in the day. My grandmother worked for him, his mom. And so he'd call me up after school and say, hey, Rich, it's 3:30. We got work to do. So I'd go and help my grandmother in her department. And I'd get a little mouthy. I like to flap my lips when I was a kid. And I remember her looking at me saying, and she was the only one to get away with calling me Richard, her and my mom. And she'd say, now, Richard, you got one mouth and 2 ears. You're supposed to be listening more than talking. Of course, I was bending the customer's ears and all other stuff, but it was good. So let's jump. You rattled off some names. Bill's your boss. He's a great guy. You got some incredible people working there. And if I go through all the names, I'll probably end up leaving somebody out. But I know Dana, Jessica, and Nick.
Yeah.
And you got Nick, and you guys have a podcast.
Yeah, we do. Nick and I have worked together for almost 18 years now.
Is that all?
And yeah, and we're really, it's fortunate. I think we're both fortunate just to be able to have a partnership with each other. And he leads all of our auto finance, and I kind of lead the retail and the marketing piece. But we have a podcast, and we've only done a couple episodes where it's both of us together on it. But a lot of times we do division of labor,
Divide and conquer?
Yeah, exactly. So it's most of them are interview podcasts, one-on-one interview podcasts, and we'll splice in some. If we go to if it's one of our events and we're able to record a panel discussion, record that, and then do an intro and put that together as a podcast. And then we've past 2 or 3 years we've had a podcast stage, a live stage at our conferences where we invite other podcasters to come. And then between me, Nick, and our colleague Andy Friedlander, who's our associate editor, the three of us will host podcast sessions on that stage and record them and distribute them as we go.
You were fortunate enough to let Ty and I record from there.
Yeah,
last call we had Mike Browning on.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a wealth of information.
He is, and he's doing great stuff with the NAAA Foundation and helping a lot of people that need it, especially after the hurricanes that came through the South last year as well.
Yeah, we were hitting Houston with one of those.
Yeah.
It almost kind of reminds me of my 2025 campaign, Joe. Have you heard that one yet?
Your 2025 campaign, what's that?
Make auctions great again.
They're definitely an adaptive business model. If we learned anything from that last panel, so I think they're changing, but you've got a lot of small business owners that are learning how to blend physical and digital. So, and you guys are doing that at eBlock.
We're doing it. We're trying. Yes, absolutely. We're physical where I'm at, and of course we've got the digital side, and then trying to marry them up. And it's interesting because let's go back to the analogy we talked about earlier with cars, right? You got ICE. I hate that term. Internal combustion engine, and then you got your full electric. But what happened? How do we meet in the middle? And I think that's kind of what Ty and I are kind of talking about, right? Is make auctions great again. We totally know we're not going to be able to go 100% physical, where you can't have anything online. You got to have that. And one of the very first podcasts that Ty and I ever recorded was based on a true story when we lost internet at our auction, and we had to make a go or no go decision within minutes of doing it. And what we learned was fascinating. You can still sell cars without the internet. We sold a lot of cars without the internet, but you also got people that solely rely on that internet, and they're like, they got really mad. You left me out. Well, sometimes you can do it and sometimes you can't. And, and that inspired me when we actually had the hurricane last year. And we could have run the sale digitally 100% because we had generators running, right? We had all the servers, all the equipment up, and we could have said, look, just for everybody's safety, we're not going to open the doors.
Yeah.
But we're like, you know what? That's going to piss some people off. We have the ability to open the doors and they can get here. Let's do the doors. So what did we do? Open the doors, brought in food. We had air conditioning. We had things that other people didn't have. And then if we transcend that, you're like, okay, how do we do that? You know, make sure the internet gets on and include them and keep those guys engaged. So that's the difficult part because you don't see them.
Yeah, I mean, how did you guys do, like, when the internet goes out and everybody's used to being able to access condition reports, you know, check Carfax, et cetera, online? How were you guys able to replicate, do the inverse of whatever everybody's talking about, bring digital to the physical?
Well, interestingly enough, I've been around the automotive industry long enough to know that you used to be able to do everything on paper.
Yeah.
And I was one of the only people at our auction that knew how to do it on paper. And we were having troubles, and what it came down to was a piece of malfunctioning equipment, a firewall issue, and it was going in and out. And when it was up, I said, "Look, here's what I need everybody to do. You need to print out a block for every lane and get everything printed." It was as simple as that. So we didn't have pictures, we didn't have condition reports, but we had blocks, and we got up there and we ran the sale off of paper. And we auctioned like old school. Here it is. It says all here on the block. We wrote down numbers and we went on. When it was finished, we went in and keyed it all in and said, and we could key it in from there. Just the outside couldn't get in because our firewall at that time was blocking stuff. So we were able to do a little bit, but we went old school and had blocks printed out. And it's rethinking. I'll give you an example. I'm back here in San Diego, and this has probably happened 15 years ago. I was at a steakhouse here in town, meeting some clients. And we go to get our bill, and they'd lost the power. This was back, when rolling brownouts were occurring all over California. And she came and said, "I'm really sorry, but I cannot give you your check tonight. You're going to have to wait until systems come up." And I looked at her nicely, and I said, "Do you have a piece of paper?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Do you have a pencil?" Let me go look. She brings me a piece of paper and a pencil. I laid my credit card down. I went like this. I wrote the total on it. I signed it, and I said, "There you go. I need to leave now. Tomorrow, call me, and you can email me a receipt." And she's like, "I can't do that." But it's going back to old school. You remember when
The carbon.
Yes,
Yeah.
the carbon copies. I'm like, we're just making a copy. So it comes down to being innovative, right? And make auctions great again. Let's go back to what Ty's saying. There's a lot of things that used to happen in the past that were great. I'll use a term, how do we remix it? Think of like, what was that Elton John song that came out not too long ago, right? It got remixed and all of a sudden the kids were loving it. "Oh, this is great. This Elton John guy's good. He's a new artist." No, he's not. We just remixed it to make it work for modern times. How do we take what we're doing at physical auctions? How do you take what you're doing at Cherokee Media? And I think you're doing it. You started out as papers, right? Mm-hmm. And now here you are more in the digital world. So how do we take what used to be, remix it to make it better for today?
Yeah, that's the challenge because so much of our focus is on, people know us now through our e-newsletters and, you think about, like, when you think about auto marketing and I think about my day-to-day job, it's posting stories to the website, sending out e-newsletters, but, that's a part of why conferences are so important is to have that in-person, connection, even though, and we bring, physical copies of the magazine to those conferences, but, the way that our publication really comes to life, so to speak, in person, in physical form is at these conferences.
Yeah. So not only is automotive, let's take auctions because that's where Ty and I are spending a lot of our time. Auctions still exist.
Yep.
We haven't gone away. We're still brick and mortar. We can do things digitally. And you're a media company. And a lot of people think media. I remember when I got my first publication from y'all, it was a long time ago. We don't even go how far back. And it was paper, right? But now you guys have also transcended. You're still relevant. You haven't gone away.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people, I'm sure, out there that are like, they're all going to go away. They're just that old-fashioned media company.
Yeah, and I used to work in physical newspaper. My first job out of college was at a newspaper, and I was a sports writer, and the sports writers were always the latest ones there because game times and all that stuff. But we literally had to proof like the paper as it was coming off the thing,
the press.
Make sure there was no kind of last minute errors in the headlines and all that stuff. But newspapers it's well documented. The challenge newspapers have had is the challenge. Their advertising went from classified ads. All those are now online. Those don't really exist anymore in terms of newspaper print, and they struggled to find new ways to generate revenue online because they pay the subscription fees, to get access to a newspaper online. People weren't willing to pay for something they were getting for free. So and it's a little bit different in the trade business to business media. People are willing to, pay for subscriptions. They're willing to, come to conferences that people have that we have. There's the webinars. It's a little bit focused. It's a little bit more of a captive audience, a little more like specific niche audience. I think that benefits us that somebody like a consumer facing newspaper media doesn't have. But yeah, I mean, we still have had to diversify how we generate money. I mean, most of it's still ads, but it's might be digital ads.
Yeah.
It might be different ways of how those ads are incorporated into the different news platforms.
Cool. What is your favorite part of everything you do? Like, I mean, you do a lot. Tell us about that. What's your favorite?
Oh, I honestly think it's moderating panels at conferences. I just it's one of those like you prepare and you prepare, but then when you get on stage, with the panel there, it's sort of just it feels it's not relaxing is not the right word, but you feel like energized and you're really bringing what most of what I do on a laptop, writing a story, bringing that to life.
Yeah.
That's by far my favorite thing to do.
So when you're up there moderating a panel, you got your list of questions, right? Do you every once in a while go, you know what? No, we're not doing that question.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
go here.
Yeah. I mean,
Read the room.
read the room and read the time monitor in front of me. Because if I see that I've got 4 minutes left and 2 or 3 questions to go, I'm like, okay, we don't need to do those. Really just or going out like I have a list of questions and I kind of have them in order of how I want to get to each person. I might say, okay, Rich, this question's for you, Todd, this is for you, and I orchestrate it so it's not scripted, but I have a general idea of when I want to hit certain questions. And sometimes if somebody's talking, it makes more sense to segue to go from question 2 to question 6 if there's a nice segue there.
So let's flip the script a little bit. And you're moderating a panel. We got listeners on here. We target managers and automotive remarketing. We mentioned that. And one of these listeners all of a sudden gets selected or chosen or invited to be on a panel. What is the best piece of advice you could give them when you get up there to make it successful?
I would say be relaxed, be yourself, be prepared, but not scripted.
Yeah.
I've been to conferences, where somebody or had interviews where somebody's reading off something, and that doesn't work because I think the whole point of these panels is people want to see a conversation, not necessarily off the cuff. You still want to like think about what you want to say, but just be prepared. And if you are prepared, that being yourself, being comfortable kind of comes naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. We more organic conversations.
Yeah.
We rarely have a script on here. I didn't give you a script or anything. We just sit down, we start
Right.
talking, try to make it organic. I didn't expect Ty to be showing us the inside of a shop today. And what was it? What was that you were fixing? Was that the flux capacitor?
How do you remember?
You got to make sure it goes over 85 miles an hour.
Well, see, I'm with Joe on this, by the way. Anytime I've ever gone to a conference, I honestly kind of interchange conference and auction. Like, man, that was a great auction. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant conference. And the reason I do that is because I've been to enough auctions in my life where I see people that I haven't met, that I go introduce myself. Where are you from? What do you do? Make another relationship, make a friend, find out about their business, find out about their challenges, the opportunities, where they're in their area, in their community. I mean, I've had the opportunity in the last 2 weeks to meet a guy in Boonville, Arkansas. That's nowhere. Population 4,000. This guy,
Hey.
Scotty Dunham. was a big fixer. He was the fixer for conglomerates down in the Northwest Arkansas area. So they call him when they wanted to completely turn over a new car store. Anyway, he went through a series of different things in life, and he's now has his own used car lot in Boonville, Arkansas. So you get to talking to him, you're like, man, you guys are really selling a lot of cars. Yeah, we are. And yeah, well, where do you buy cars? How do you buy cars? You start just figuring these things out. My point is that when I say make auctions great again, what I'm really saying is there's so much opportunity within an auction, just like at a conference, right? You get to the conference, the opportunities are unlimited, in my opinion. That's why you never really see me for more than 5 minutes, because I got to go meet the next guy and the next guy and just keep following that trail. Where are we going? What are we doing? And that's what I've always enjoyed about Joe and hanging out with Nick and Bill at these conferences is they know everybody. You want to talk about somebody who knows everybody? Those guys know everybody. So anyway, it's a great
Yes.
opportunity to network, build relationships, and even build your business, whatever that business might be. And that's where I think when I say make auctions great again, I built my business at an auction. And you just start seeing all these opportunities within a group, within an organization, a building where there's real people that can really help you.
And they're both kind of organized chaos.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Meet Me at the Gate. I hope the conversation has helped to fuel your drive and equip you with insights to steer your team towards success. Remember, the road to success is always under construction. And until next time, keep your engines revving and your gas tanks full.